All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first webinar on the Change Leader series, BreakFree. My name is Dinakar. I'll be the host for today. And before we get started, I would like to go over a few housekeeping rules. So your line is currently muted. However, you can submit your questions during the webinar through the chat option at the bottom of the screen. We will answer your questions as part of the Q&A section at the end of the webinar. And please note that this webinar is being recorded, and we will send the link of the recording to share with your colleagues later. With that said, let me quickly share a bit about the series. On this next slide, you will see what the idea behind BreakFree was. And BreakFree was an idea that birthed out of the need for change in the testing domain. We have seen the testing industry evolve over the decades as a few leaders took the risk and embraced change. And somehow we knew that we believed that this change can be accelerated at a much faster pace. And so we took the liberty of identifying and inviting a few leaders who are breaking the mold and embracing change to see the QA industry evolve. And a few leaders that you will be witnessing are right up on your screen. Priya Telkar is one of them, who will be speaking later on during our session. And and this is what became the starting of the Break Free a Change Leader series. Our hope is that these sessions would spark ideas in each of you to be the change in the QA industry. We want to see the QA industry improve and grow in leaps and bounds. With that, let me welcome our first change leader, Priya Telkar. Priya has over 16 years of experience in testing in various domains, such as device testing, mobile application testing, quality engineering, product management, and user experience. Her primary experience has been in the field of mobile device and application testing with companies like BenQ, L&T Technology Service, Capgemini, and Eaton. In her free time, you can see her engrossed in books as she loves reading and enjoying books. Without further ado, let me hand it over to our speaker, Priya Telkar.
Thank you so much for the introduction, and hope I'm audible. Can you just confirm if I'm audible? And
yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, thank you so much for the introduction, and thanks for giving me this opportunity. I'm glad to be part of the Break Free session where we're coming together as a community to share ideas, discuss what we have learned so far, what is happening in the industry, and how we can bring about a change. So the topic for today is how QA is evolving in DevOps and how QA can be largely integrated in DevOps with a mindset that is required to fit into the culture of DevOps, right? So agenda for today is simple. We'll just give a brief overview of what DevOps is, how testing and DevOps work together, why testing is needed in DevOps, what are the driving factors, what is continuous testing, and what are the factors that influence continuous testing, how does or what is the role of automation in continuous testing, and DevOps test strategy as whole. So to begin with, to set context of what DevOps is all about, if we were to talk about 20 years ago, like watching a movie on demand on a cell phone, or the idea of connecting anybody anywhere in the globe at any point of time, making transactions online, shopping online, was not possible because either technology was evolving or technology wasn't just there. Today, it is business as usual. Now, technology has come a long way since the early days of computers driven by vacuum tubes and software programs written on punch cards. This dramatic growth is due not only to the accelerating rate of hardware and software innovation, but to the modernization of organizational process that foster such innovation. And one of the most important advancements in those processes has been the DevOps movement. DevOps, as the name implies, is a collaboration of development and operation team members. The fundamental premise of DevOps is to combine all those associated with delivering a software product into a unified, self-directed, and self-correcting team that follows Agile as its work process. Now, DevOps isn't a process, technology, or a standard, but it is a culture that has brought about a great change in the way we develop and develop software, right? So as Amazon defined, DevOps is a combination of cultural philosophies, practices, and tools that increases an organization's ability to deliver application and services at high velocity, evolving and improving products at a faster pace then organization using traditional software development and infrastructure management process. This speed enables organization to better serve their customers and compete more effectively in the market. So now under a DevOps model, development and operation teams are no longer siloed. These two teams merge to form a single team where engineers work across the entire application life cycle, from development and test to deployment and operations, and have a range of multidisciplinary skills. Now, DevOps team use tools to automate and accelerate processes, which helps to increase reliability. A DevOps tool chain helps team tackle important DevOps fundamentals, including continuous integration, continuous delivery, automation, and collaboration. With all of this, the common question arises from QA or from testing is, where does testing fit in all of these? Where does testing fit, and how is testing or QA in DevOps different than in agile or waterfall model, or how has it evolved in the last 2 decades? And as a QA, what additional skills am I expected to know? Let us let us look into it in the next 30 to 40 minutes today, and let's try to answer a few of these questions today. Now, there's a big difference, making something work, making something and making something work, right? If you were to take an example of a pharmaceutical company, for every 5,000 drugs the company makes, only one will make it to the market. And that process from development to release of the drug can take on an average 12 years. That's the price the company pays to do business. The same can be said to other businesses like aerospace. Like manufacturing spacecraft is not a joke. You do, it is it takes years of innovation, research, and testing that goes into before a rocket is launched into space. Similarly, software has always been subject to rigorous testing. Failure to do adequate testing can have disastrous result. The fact is, if you want software that works, you need to test it relentlessly. So what are the driving forces for testing in DevOps? So despite knowing that testing is important, and without adequate testing you're bound to fail, yet for most of the software industry even today, testing is viewed as a bottleneck that slows down product releases and affects profit. In prior decades, most software was monolithic and created using the waterfall model. In waterfall, development activities, as we know, are phased and gated, with deliverables handed from one department to another, and testing happens well after the code is written. Typically, this testing is performed by a tester who has no interaction with the developer and is an independent of the development team. Much of the testing, particularly UI testing, is manual. And when errors are detected, which happens far more often than we may admit, the code has to go all the way back to the beginning of the process. A developer who could have fixed the bug in 5 minutes if it had been found on the day he or she would have coded now has to move himself or herself away from his current work and remember how the code that was written weeks ago. Then, once understood, the developer needs to create a fix. And on top of that, an additional hazard. The fix itself may introduce new bugs that may require additional testing. This may further delay the release. So fortunately, most companies now see that phased and gated development process are often counterproductive in today's fast-paced, highly competitive environment, and have started embracing agile approach. Now, agile, from which DevOps grew, promotes having small, self-directed, interdisciplinary teams to create software. They deliver small features incrementally and iteratively, starting with a minimal viable product. A release used to learn from production use. Now, agile teams may work in one or two iterations, or they may practice continuous delivery for agile teams. The product is never finished, it is always evolving. Now, each team in the agile process is responsible for the overall quality of the software it delivers. The notion of will let QA take care of it is contrary to the agile way of doing things. The level of scale and global competition that have become commonplace in today's software development environment have created new driving forces that make testing in DevOps essential. And some of these forces are the increased need for confidence in product quality. Now, modern software delivery, as I just said, is moving at a rate previously unheard of. As such, emphasizing testing as a discrete event or at the end of a cycle is counterproductive and questionable. The need for development speed makes testing in isolation inconceivable. Testing needs to happen constantly everywhere now. The second is the predominance of disruption as a business strategy. Now, disruption is a driving force in the modern commercial strategies of modern business. Take Amazon, for example, where in earlier days, retailers would want people to walk into their stores to buy things. Amazon decided to do the other way, got retail to customers through their phone over internet, and they succeeded in it, and they're continuing to grow. Uh, Retailers who did not catch up to the disruption are now shutting shops or trying to innovate themselves again. So it is not only Amazon, but there are so many other examples that we can list out who have uh, understood disruption and embraced change. For example, Uber and Ola have changed the way taxi services work today. Airbnb has disrupted hospitality industry, uh, and these have resulted in their success. So today, the growing trend for success at web scale is business disruption. The most important key to such disruption is quality software. Disruption only works when a new system put in place are better than the older system being set aside. Completely revolutionizing a system requires a rapid pace of innovation, software development, and most importantly, testing practices that testing is designed to ensure teams can achieve. Third is the growing dependency of business success on software. Just about every company today depends upon software, whether it is a corner coffee shop that uses point of sale to collect money for the purchase of a coffee or a tea, or it could be any manufacturer, automotive manufacturer that uses a enterprise resource planning system to make sure cars are coming out of its factory on time and on budget. Software is a key here. And according to Statista, the five most valuable companies today are the Amazon, Alphabet, Microsoft, and Facebook. Each of these companies' success exists solely because of software. Every one of these business and every business that use technology is only as good as the software that drives them. Hence, effective continuous testing of mission critical software becomes a key factor for success of any business, may it be in waterfall, agile, or DevOps. Testing approaches do so the last one is the scarcity of broad knowledge and experience in testing at scale. Until recently, when we used to say automation or testing, it was limited to functional or regression testing. When we would say that we are doing automation, it was limited to automating a regression, running automated suits in regression. But this has changed. Like many times that testing is done by a QA specialist. Um, um, in traditional way, what was to happen is testing was being done by a QA specialist sitting at keyboard, typing away tests according to some predefined list of tasks. Now, as more and more organizations have started doing test automation, the need for manual regression testers have diminished. As a result, it has given rise to software development engineer in test, or normally called as SDATs today. One SDAT can automate manual tasks previously done by 10 people following a script of manual test cases. While there is little doubt the value that SDATs bring, there is a downside. An SDAT has an SDAT brings in testing and coding, and therefore is naturally in great demand today. So these factors has given to a new term, or as we call it as revolutionized testing in the way we do testing today. And there is a new term that has been coined as DevTestOps or QAOps, whatever, however we want to name it, right? So DevTestOps or QAOps came about to satisfy a variety of needs that have become more pressing as the demand for online software continue to scale to levels previously unheard of. Today, Facebook has over 2 billion active subscribers. Gmail supports over 1 billion users, and these numbers are just growing. DevOps automates most of now we know that DevOps automates most of manual operation in the software development lifecycle, which leads to faster delivery of the product. DevOps is successful, but there are possibilities of missing critical bugs, scenarios, and business requirement in the product as testing may not be if testing has not been performed. To eliminate the possibility of missing defects, functionality, and business risk, an idea was brought forward in which continuous testing was implemented as a major part of software delivery pipeline. And this idea came to be known as either DevTestOps or QAOps. Now, the goal of DevTestOps or QAOps is not to silo test from Dev and Ops, but simply raise the visibility of testers and testing as integral part of the DevOps quality culture. Now, this process involves testing early, testing often, and testing throughout the software delivery pipeline. Now, DevTestOps or QAOps, as we call it, highlights the key role of testers in the development of product along with the operation of professionals. It stresses that continuous testing framework should be integrated with your CI/CD pipeline. It lays most importance on continuity of testing feedback to developers throughout the stages of the product development, thus reducing business risk and possibility of finding defects at later stages. It can be simply explained as maintaining software quality by approaching with a DevOps mindset. The technical, excuse me. So there is no proper definition or how we could want to define DevTestOps or QAOps, but the principle behind is simple. It is incorporating consistent testing in DevOps with continuous integration, continuous deployment, that is the CI/CD pipeline, as opposed to performing testing at the end of the cycle. Now, this framework expand cooperation between QA, developers, engineers, and operation. Hence, QA engineers now should start working closely with the developers, operations, and everybody who is associated with the CI/CD pipeline. So, as we see on the right side, Dan Ashby, a co-founder of Software Testing Clinic, illustrate testing in DevOps, as shown in this image. He says testing should happen everywhere. At each and every point of DevOps, a tester or a QA needs to be involved. So testing needs to happen early, testing often, and testing throughout. That is the key emphasis of in getting involved as a testing in DevOps. Continuous testing is the heartbeat of testing in DevOps. So continuous testing, to summarize it, is a process of executing automated tests as part of the software delivery pipeline in order to obtain feedback on the business risk associated with software release as rapidly as possible. Now it evolves and extends test automation to address the increased complexity and pace of modern application development and delivery. Now, continuous testing really boils down to providing right feedback to the right stakeholder at the right time. For decades, as we already spoke about it, was traditionally deferred until the end of cycle. At that point, tester would provide all sorts of important feedback, but nobody really wanted to hear it because it was too late and there was little the team could feasibly do except delay the release. With continuous testing, the focus is on providing actionable feedback to people who really care about it at the point when they are truly prepared to act on it. The word continuous means code is continuously deployed, delivered, tested, and deployed. The testers identify possible scenario based on requirements, create execute test cases from the beginning of the software delivery pipeline, and share feedback to the development team on the business risk involved. Now, continuous testing does not require any specific type of approach, shift left or shift right, or any testing tools. However, it requires that an actionable feedback is delivered to the right stakeholder at the right time. Testing occurs across all the phases of the software delivery pipeline. Now, the scope of continuous testing is pretty huge, with validation of functional and non-functional requirements of the product. It involves API testing, unit, integration and system testing, performance testing of the software, all done under a simulated environment with test automation. It is an uninterrupted execution of automated tests while being part of the software delivery process, facilitating immediate feedback based on the business changes associated with the product and mitigating risk before they proceed to the next SDLC stage. Now, the primary goal of continuous testing is to assess the business risk coverage. It provides instant insight on whether a release candidate is too risky to proceed through the delivery pipeline. It establishes a safety net that helps the team protect the user experience in the accelerated development process and avoid software failures. Continuous testing is seamlessly integrated into your software pipeline and the DevOps toolchain. Continuous testing embraces everything from shift left, that is unit component coverage testing, to shift right, monitoring, APM testing, and production. As testing is implemented at each stage and most of the processes are automated, it leads to few of these improvements. The defects are detected early. It shortens the regression cycle from weeks to hours by just automating the process itself. The developers and testers work together with leading to a better understanding of the module and increase the quality of the product exponentially. The testers get a chance to perform all kinds of testing during the phase of a product development. The tester becomes an equal owner of the product as a developer. Automated build and deployment accelerates the process and avoids any human error and dependency. Now, what are the factors that influence continuous testing? There are three: people, process, and technology. Now, each person in a team has a unique responsibility in the delivery pipeline for it, which he or she must possess the required skills. The people should be transparent, and regular communication between members is a key to success here. Process remains a key in continuous testing. Instead of automating everything, focus should be on test automation, code quality, stability, efficiency, and providing timely feedback to the developer. Technology should be leveraged to get a stable testing environment, build proper alignment between the team skills and software tools. It is important to recognize that no tool can instantly give you continuous testing. Like Agile and DevOps, continuous testing requires changes throughout the people, process, and technology. However, trying to initiate associated changes in people and process when your technology is not up to the task will be an uphill battle from the start. So, when we start on the continuous testing journey, we need to make sure that all the three of them are aligned and all the three of them are taken care of, because if we don't if we lose or if we fail to consider one of them, we end up losing all. Now, where does test automation play a role in continuous testing? One thing that we need to understand is, if we're doing automation, it does not mean we're doing continuous testing. So test automation itself does not employ continuous testing. Continuous testing is much more than test automation. So before continuous testing evolved, doing automation in chunks like maybe functional or regression was a norm. But ever-growing requirements of modern application, the complexities of testing, that idea of automation is making it less effective. Now, despite having similarities, it is false to assume, as I just said, that continuous testing and automation are the same thing. Now, test automation is designed to produce a set of pass or fail related to user stories or application requirements. Now, continuous testing, however, focuses on the business risk. It provides insight on whether a software can be released. To achieve this shift, we need to stop asking, are we done testing? And instead concentrate on, does the release candidate have an acceptable level of business risk? Now, continuous testing goes beyond test automation. It aims to ensure continuous quality improvement throughout the whole software delivery pipeline. It emphasizes continuous process improvement, while test automation provides us with the critical sensors for detecting software defects. Continuous testing highlights process improvements that can prevent future defects from occurring. Now, the constant monitoring of result and feeding back to the process is the key to improve your test effectiveness. Now, focus of the team moves from defect finding and fixing to getting ahead by evolving in defect prevention. So defect prevention plays an important role here. The tight loop created with continuous testing lets managers move from firefighting to looking at process improving and eventually optimizing. Now, why does shift to DevOps makes automation imperative? Why is it important? Now, as I told earlier, modern application development involves releasing increasingly complex and distributed applications on tighter timelines. It is not possible to complete the required scope and complexity of testing in sprint without careful design and So there's basically less time available to test. So in sprint where you have to complete all your testing in 2 weeks, manual test cycles takes weeks to do it. So manual testing just does not work here. So there is a need of automation. Teams expect now, since the teams have started working in an agile and DevOps mode, they are expecting continuous near instant feedback. Now, Agile and DevOps team expect, as I said, feedback to be delivered continuously throughout the release cycle. Now, this isn't possible if you're doing manual testing. Even if you hire a large number of testers, right? Without faster feedback on how the latest changes impact core end-to-end transaction, accelerated delivery puts the user experience at risk with each and every release. And the last or not the least is the business expectations are dramatically different. Now, as companies are prioritizing digital transformation, the old adage of speed, cost, quality no longer applies. Now, the pressure is to stabilize cost. IT leaders are now expected to deliver more innovative application faster than ever. Today, everyone from the CEO down recognizes that skimping on quality inevitably leads to brand erosions as well as customer defection. In regulated industries, the repercussion of subpar quality are even more severe. So, where does automation testing fit in? Automation testing fits everywhere, right? Unit tests. While you do unit test, so it's not restricted only to functional or regression testing as we used to do a decade earlier. Today, automation testing is evolved, and the teams are trying to automate each and every aspect of the process, like unit tests. Now, unit tests check a function or a class in isolation. So, unit tests will cover an individual function, and they're inexpensive and quick to implement. Integration test will check if a new added module work well with others. Then functional validation test determine whether a specific requirement is satisfied. And end-to-end test also making sure that end-to-end of the application works seamlessly. Performance test measure your application's reliability, scalability, and availability. So how to maximize test automation efficiency in DevOps? By selecting right tool and framework, getting your basics right, defining the performance metrics to see pass and fail, developing good documentation practices, and leveraging them into your CI/CD process. Excuse. So, what are the top challenges that we are seeing in order to implement continuous testing? One is the increased complexities. The newer application that are being released are more complex with multiple integrations. So, as the scope of product grows, so does the scope of testing. So, with large number of tests added to the system, it becomes challenge to make the test execute quickly. So if a test takes too long to run, it defeats the whole purpose of continuous testing as quick feedback is not available. If not all tests are run, it seems like a compromise on the quality of the product. Also, if not all tests are run, it makes the effort of adding all those tests in the system go in vain. Other one is trying to automate every test. Now, the challenge might have been previously, the challenge was not automating enough, getting testers to board the automation train, having them contribute and constantly run automated tests was the first step. But the challenge now is that we're trying to automate everything. Now, this is resulting in huge test suites that are unmanageable and take more time in maintenance than testing itself. Moreover, they cannot be run continuously and thus defeat the whole purpose of automation. Now we know the benefits of automation test, but we also must realize that every test is not worth automating. So when we are putting together plan, it is very essential to make sure that we pick the right suit and we design our automation suite wisely. Right? Teams need to have it's very essential to have a checklist of criteria of a test that is needed to fulfill in order to make a test automated suite, and we need to adhere with that checklist. And your tests should be nimble. I mean, your automation suite should be as flexible as possible. and they should be such that you should be able to execute them on demand, in full or in parts. The other most important challenge is choosing popular testing tools over the right tools. Now, since we need to pick up tools to make our own DevOps pipeline, we are faced with the choice of a multitude of tools. There are innumerable tools today available doing different things in the market today. And with so many tools promising us the best features and quality, we most often find ourselves taking a safe bet with the most popular kid on the block, right? So while that might seem to be a safe bet in the beginning, but it could turn out to be expensive later on. So we must not just go by the popularity of a tool or just pick an open source tool because it is free of cost. Do a survey, do a market survey for the actual fit for your team. The tools we select have to fit to the context, meet your unique needs, and be something the team can work with and appreciate. Do your POCs before choosing a tool. Do your POCs, have your team run it, get enough demos, make sure that customization is possible, and run multiple pilots before you finalize any tools you add and to add to your. Then there is lack of faster feedback loops. Now, to leverage continuous testing, we have known that it is important to incorporate feedback. Now, feedback is the essence of continuous testing. Now, to incorporate feedback on a continuous basis, you need feedback loops in the system that can help you gather feedback in real time. Now, lack of such loops introduce a delay in action. For example, if one of your test environment used to run automation test is down, an alert message for the same will help you act timely to rectify it rather than digging into cause of the non-arrival of test report for scheduled automation run. So basically, as soon as your environment is down, you should get a trigger saying your environment is down so that you can take a corrective action and not actually wait till the point that you were expecting a report and the report does not come and then you start debugging. So the need for including feedback mechanism at every checkpoint is very important. So it also helps to have real-time dashboard to monitor performance, which depicts the performance metrics over a period of time, rather than digging into logs and code profiler report every time you want to check a product's performance. When such a dashboards are accessible to everyone on the team, it helps bring critical issues to the table and get them prioritized. Then one of the other challenges the inefficient processes itself, right? Now processes are good to maintain the sanctity of the project and deliver consistent quality. Now, having checklist for each task as well as clear definition of done and exit criteria help the team know their goals and direction. Whatever you do within the team must be defined, explained, and agreed upon. We can make improvements, but if we keep adding more and more processes during the ongoing iteration, they can cause more harm than good. Now, introducing new rules or mandate during course of development feels like an overhead and causes confusion and delays. Apart from every urgent or critical changes, it is better to reserve any new process change for a retrospective meeting with the entire time before bringing them into action. Now, sometimes the process followed in an organization are not conducive for achieving continuous testing. For example, change in requirements. Now, if requirement specification keep on changing, it creates a lot of rework for the team, especially the testing team, as tests may need to be updated every time there is a change in requirement. This adversely impacts the effort of continuous testing. Unclear roles and responsibility. If the roles and responsibility of team members are not clearly defined, it may result in ambiguous ownership of tasks. Such ambiguity can lead to redundant efforts on some tasks and some tasks getting totally ignored. So clear ownership of tasks is important. Then is excluding testing team in the initial discussion. So if testing team is not included in all product related discussion from the very beginning, it would create gap in understanding, which may impact continuous testing. Also, it would require additional process such as handoffs from developers to testers from time to time, adding inefficiency to the whole system. Now, what do we need to look out while picking up the right tools, right? I just give a just about it when I was talking about the challenges in automation. One of the things that you need to look out when you're picking up any tools for achieving your continuous testing is the technology supported. Now, your choice of tool will largely depend upon the type of application that is being tested. Now, search for a tool that meets the requirements of the technology or application you're looking to test, and consider selecting a tool that spans across multiple technologies, allowing you to scale automation and achieve greater return on investment. Integration capabilities. This is the most important. Make sure the platform is easy to integrate to your pipeline. A tool should come with relevant plugins for the most common pipeline orchestrators or well documented API allowing the orchestrator to control the test automation platform. But in general, today, most of the tool come with wide variety of integrations and so making sure that whatever tool you pick up easily integrates to your DevOps pipeline is imperative, right? Execution time. This is like if you have a fully automated pipeline, the time needed for running a test is crucial. Now make sure the test automation platform allows you to scale execution of test cases to keep runtime at a minimum. So while you're trying to pick up tools, make sure that the tool allows you to schedule your test. It should allow you to run test unattended around the clock. And it should also, and one of the most important things that we need to keep in mind is the tool that you choose or pick should allow you to run multiple tests in parallel. That is, if you're testing a web-based web application which is accessible through web browsers, you should be able to initiate testing simultaneously across all browsers, Chrome, Firefox, Safari, based on the browser supported by the application. If it is a mobile device application, your tool should support parallel execution, that when you execute or when you initiate or when you trigger the automation, you should be able to run your scripts on simultaneous devices like Android, iOS in parallel, so that your execution time reduces and you get you are saving out on a lot of time there, right? Learning curve. Now, some of the tools that we see in the market are overwhelming for it could be newcomers or people who are already using some kind of a tool, right? Because they have added unnecessary complexities, and some of them are too complicated in themselves to use, right? So regardless of choice, make sure that you receive adequate training. You should make an estimate. So learning curve, or while you are planning your test strategy, make sure that estimating the time to learn the new tool is also taken into consideration, right? So you should make an estimate of how long you would take your team to be able to adopt the tool in their daily work, and how time consuming it will be to maintain these tests. It's often the later that team breaks the next on. So even maintenance of the scripts later on should be easy. And last but not the least is, make sure that the tools that you pick are aligning with the business expectation. If done right, implementing a tool, a continuous testing tool, is a great investment. Now consider how the tool will help you achieve the level of process optimization required to meet your business goals. Take into consideration all aspects of continuous testing, identify cases for automation, developing the test, execution reporting, and acting on results, and defining action for when things fail. Like does this tool offer self-healing, or how is their reporting, what kind of reports are generated, how intuitive the reports are, how do they give you logs analytics, how is it is to decode them, how well you can share the reports, how will the tool be able to optimize all of the activities and help to increase the overall product quality, etc. So in short, while you're trying to pick a tool, make sure that your tool has a good integration with other tools. It has robust API support. It has cross-platform support, right? It offers customization in case Do you require any customization on top of the existing feature that a tool offers? The vendor should be able to provide you support on that. Ease of use, they should have a central database. Performance, overall performance. Price also plays a very important role, though plays an important factor while you're picking up the tool. And cloud support. Again, today most of the application are on cloud, so your application should easily work, or you should be able to integrate directly on the application that are hosted on cloud. And bug detection, bug fixing, logging bugs automatically, etc. And good customer support. So in summary, a good DevOps test strategy should take care of your automation, frequent iteration, continuous improvement, and collaborative approach. Now, a successful DevOps testing strategy is aimed at building, testing, releasing software faster and more frequently. Automate as many tests as you can, but don't automate everything. So manual test, no matter how careful, leave room for errors. So automate test is a need of the day, and you can run it as many times as possible without human errors, right? Finally, make sure that you keep notoriously bitter test script from overwhelming the team with false positives. Create tests for every new modified requirements. Establish a framework that supports reuse of data and supports reuse and data driven testing. Keep individual test and broader test framework in sync with the constantly evolving application. Frequent iteration, small code chunks should be returned in time box sprint, regularly tested to ensure high software velocity and deployment. Continuous improvement testing is performed at every stage of the life cycle. Feedback is continuously incorporated into the development to ensure that product performance is continuously optimized and improved. And collaborative approach is a key of successful DevOps embracing testing in DevOps. Development operation teams working in conjunction rather than silos. Quality assurance forms a bond between the two, results in an unified approach, seamless communication, and higher efficiency. So how do you start testing with your how do you get started with testing in DevOps? Skill yourself and your team on DevOps testing. Engage a DevOps test consultant and appoint a architect to conduct an assessment of your current testing practices. They would define a roadmap with the help of them based on the assessment outcome. The roadmap should define a test strategy for the product. Metrics to monitor performance for testing. Select a pilot application to begin with. Implement the test infrastructure, framework, and tools according to the solution roadmap. Train cross-functional team members on test creation methodologies and tools. After a pilot project is successful, expand it to rest of the product and keep monitoring for and put continuous improvement in place. So just to summarize, few of the best practices uh, is involved from the beginning. Testability should be part of the low level. So get involved from the beginning. From the time requirements are designed, the testing team should be part of it. Understand the requirement hand in hand with the business and the developers. Uh, Apply a broad range of tests throughout the testing process, which includes unit testing, integrated testing, regression testing, and production testing. Evaluate your tools and framework before you include them in your system. Evaluate your budget requirement before starting on a continuous testing journey. Scale your test environment to run tests in parallel. Make use of cloud-based cross-browser testing platform to reduce test times as much as possible. Parallel testing should be one of your major consideration while you're running your test. Have skilled testers, efficient test data management. Integrate analytics within the test process, which can generate right insights, throw light on the key functional issues, and check the consistency of the test result. And resolve all your inefficient processes way in the beginning, then in between. Now, processes that are inefficient and not well designed are bound to create bottlenecks in the overall effort of achieving continuous testing. Such processes should be resolved before they become part of the continuous testing initiative. So that's it from my side, and thank you for patiently hearing that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Priya, for sharing your valuable insights with some practical examples and real-world scenarios. Your presentation has covered a lot of practical pointers, and they've provided a lot of insightful experiential knowledge. It is truly an honor to be hearing from you. Thank you for that. For the rest of the participants, you can share your questions that we will be sharing with Priya, and she will be able to take them one by one. Uh, so we leave it for the Q&A session for some time. We'll keep that open for the next 5-10 minutes, and then we'll call it a day. All right, I do have a few questions coming in. One of them are here. What are some tools that you would recommend for continuous testing?
Okay. So there are no, as I was saying, right, there are no fixed rules for any continuous testing. So if you're doing automation testing, you can start with Selenium, or you can, if you are having highly intuitive complex test scenarios, Selenium or APM may not suit your need, right? Then you can start looking out to uh, uh, license tools. Similarly, for every aspect of continuous testing, right, from unit testing to your integration to continuous deployment to your defect tracking, right? So you can rely on tools like Jira or ALM. So there is nothing called as for a success of continuous testing. You need to rely on these tools, as I emphasized. It all depends upon what is your appetite and what kind of application are you testing, what is the need of the day, right? What is your application landscape, and what is the DevOps tool pipeline that is in place. So so these things should be taken into consideration while choosing a tool, and there is wide gamut of tools in the market today. Based on your needs, go ahead and start using them, but use the right tools.
All right, got it. Got it. Um, so Kiran was asking, as a QA exec, how do we practically get involved in testing early?
To say testing early, easier said than done, right? It's a cultural shift. It is a cultural shift where the testing team should be involved. I mean, it should come from top down, right? So the testing team should get involved in the very beginning, from the time the requirement get start documented, so that the tester can start involving very early, can give suggestion feedback from a user experience point of view, right? And get better understanding of the product. But then, as I said, as an individual, it is not possible, but it is an organizational or an effort that your leadership should put in to make sure that QA is involved from the very beginning. And when I say very beginning, from the time the product is initiated, from the time you start talking requirements.
Right, right. Okay. I think, Dhananjay is passing on a few questions to you as well,
Mhm.
Priya. But before that, could you take this last question what are some skills that are required for implementing or adapting DevOps model for a user who is, for a user who is new to DevOps itself? So what are some skill sets that are required?
Skills, there are both skills, right? From a DevOps point of view, if you're starting, there are there are few skills that you need to keep in mind are from soft skill to technical skills, right? Soft skills would be your communication and collaboration.
Yep.
You should when you start working in a team of a team which is collaborating, so communication plays a very important role. So one of the main skills that I always keep saying even to my team, right? Communicate well, ask the right questions. So communication is one of the top skills, right? Soft skills, as I said, should be important. I know technical skills come along, right? Based on the type of automation tools you pick up, you start learning, maybe, by type of scripting languages, could be Java, JavaScript, Python. That does not matter. That's part of your day to day working, because you have identified a tool, you learn to know how to use them. But then what I understand is, you need to sharpen your soft skills. You need to sharpen your coding and scripting skills. So based on what kind of tool, what kind of an application, uh, develop your skill set around that scripting language. It could be Python, it could be JavaScript, whatever, right? Based on, today we are slowly moving towards low code, no code tools also, but that's the thing in the future. But right now, a lot of tools requires you to have a good knowledge of coding and scripting. Stick to one scripting language. It could be JavaScript, it could be Python, whatever it is, right? Based on the type of tool your organization is catering to, be good at it. And learn cloud skills, because all of the applications are hosted on cloud. So learn
Right.
about all the cloud infrastructures, right? And your basic testing skills should be good. You should know the nitty gritties of testing, right? Everybody knows that testing is making sure you get expected result of whatever input, right? But that is not all about it. You need to know, and you should be a customer. I always say that while you're doing a testing, don't think of yourself as a tester or developer. Test as if you're an end user. So that is one of the skills that you need to develop. Test with keeping customer should be your focus, and you should be proactive. Take on new roles, take on new skills, try to learn new skills. If you are doing automation testing today, learn API testing. uh, Try to understand different aspects of testing so that you get involved in different aspects of testing. But that's about it, I think. And these are a few of the important skills that you need to know if you want to start your DevOps journey.
Great. Thank you, Priya. I mean, we have time for maybe one or two questions. If you have anything on your kitty, you can take them on. Okay, here's another question, Priya.
Mhm.
How easy is it to switch from traditional testing approach to a DevOps model? This is a question from Sashi.
Easy or easy or difficult? It's a difficult question to answer, but a good question also, right? It's a big change in how you're doing things, right? So in traditional way, we know that testers get involved at a much later stage. Well, the developer is happening, and we do independent testing. Okay, that is how things have been working. But right now, the transitioning, I think it's all about conditioning it's all about mindset conditioning, right? How you condition. So you need to be involved from very day one. You need to take control, or you need to take the onus of quality. So quality, as a tester, you should not, as a tester, because I have been a tester myself, right, for 16 odd years. So the journey is take responsibility from the beginning. So the whole mindset or how things we did traditionally changes while it comes to agile. We get involved from day one, and get involved from day one, collaborate well with developer and operations, which was to not happen earlier. So there's a big change in how we did testing in waterfall versus agile. Once you start adopting to agile, you find it is much easier and better way to do things, because you get more better, you find defects or you give feedback, they are responded immediately. You see things changing, you see you getting more involved, and you see changes happening very frequently, rather than it could have happened while in traditional mode. While in waterfall mode, you may come up with a piece of code, or you may come across a feature which may be working as expected, but you feel from an user perspective it's not a right flow to follow, and you give your feedback, but nobody really wants to take it up because they run out of time and it is not feasible, right? But while in an agile, you have an upper hand here because you are part of the team from the very beginning, so your feedback even as a tester are taken into consideration. And with continuous testing, you are involved from the very beginning, from requirements, and also, and it does not stop after production. Today the testing has gone beyond production. There's a concept called a shift right, where we still continue to monitor how the application is how the users have embraced the application, how is it doing, how what features are failing or what is doing well, and you become part of that whole cycle. So I don't say it is difficult or it is easy. It's just about a mindset change. It's about how we used to work, how we are supposed to work. Here we are expected to be more proactive, more collaborating all the time, and being on toes all the time, right? So taking complete ownership of the product, as would a developer or a business would do. So it's all about mindset change. It's not about how difficult or how easy it is.
Great, great. Well, thank you for all of that insight, and thank you for answering those questions, Priya. It was quite helpful, and I'm sure most of the participants who asked those their answers are given. But yeah, it's been a true honor to be hearing from you, Priya, once again. And we also want to thank each one of our participants for joining us for the first event in the Break Free series. We're sure Priya's insights and knowledge on the topic has sparked a few ideas that you can take back and implement for yourself. And also, please feel free to reach out to me with any questions. I'll be sharing my email address on the chat. So I'll respond to that as soon as possible. But thank you once again thank you everyone for being such an engaging audience today. Good day.
Thank you for the opportunity. To me also, thank you.
Thank you.